Hi, everyone. I'm Gold Derby News and Features Editor Ray Richmond, and today I'm joined by Henri Esteve, Johnny Ray Diaz, and Carlos Santos, who play the uncles Mike, Raleigh, and Ryan, respectively, on the new eight-part Amazon Freevee comedy series Primo. Welcome to you guys. Um, talk about the experience of making the series and maybe how it differed from any of your previous acting or TV gigs. Let's start with you, Henry.
I think I've never had a cast and a bond like this with a cast and crew before. I think that's kind of first and foremost is the amount of like love and support we all gave each other and had on set. I've told this story before, but like there was a scene where Johnny, I don't know if you've heard me tell this story, where they came over and told Johnny to say whatever he wanted at some point. It was like 2 a.m. in a car. He was in the back seat, and they came over and were like, Johnny, just try anything. And Johnny,
I remember this.
episode 8.
Lock it out.
And he was like, yo, do you guys have a joke? Like, I got nothing right now. And both Carlos and I had nothing. And Johnny tried whatever. I don't really remember what the joke was, but Carlos came up to me like an hour and a half later and was like, bro, I feel so bad I didn't have a joke for Johnny. And that type of, I've just never seen actors care about other actors' performances that much, to still be thinking about it 90 minutes later at 3 a.m. And I think like that is a very clear example of what everything on set was like with this cast.
I remember. Yeah, what kind of competitive jerks are you that you're rooting for each other? You're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, we didn't get the memo.
Yeah,
I was going to say
I blocked it out of my memory because I didn't do well. So, that's why I forgot it. I didn't have a joke.
Yeah. I haven't seen it. Your joke might have made it in the episode. I just don't know.
But. So you have a lot of fun working on this too, Johnny?
Yeah, I mean, just to go off of what Henri said, I mean, it's hands down, it's by far the most, collaborative and like, honestly, just like beautiful experience I've ever had on set, from like the crew to the writers, the producers, the directors, all the cast. I mean, it was just like, it was hard to believe that this was work every day. That we're just coming in to kind of joke around basically. And, I mostly done a lot of dramatic stuff. So for me, it was nice to not have to be in a heavy headspace before doing a scene, or I actually just to come and just have fun with a bunch of people, and tell some stories. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
How about you, Carlos?
Well, for me, this is officially my first single camera comedy. I had done a Henri Fight for Netflix, which they let me play around, but it was still at the heart of it a dramedy. And I've been doing comedy for a very long time. So, and obviously when you're talking about people like Mike Schur and the history that he brings from SNL to The Office to Parks and Rec, these are things that you're kind of tracking as you especially if you're paying attention, and this is what you eventually want to be around. So for me, it was just like from the second that I read the script, I was like, wow, this is something else. It just the writing alone was so good. And then to have an even bigger blessing of having these people be so cool, and then meeting the cast and just working from the get-go, hit the ground running and had that special experience. So it was a really special 3 months in Albuquerque where we were filming. And for me, it's just every instinct, every comedy, I worked it all out. And it was just, it's one of those things where you just like, when you're in the zone together collectively, it's such a communal experience. And that's, I miss it. I'm ready. If I'm ready to go back, because I still, I feel like to stay in that space is so nice. It's like, whatever nirvana is, whatever the right word of it is, being in that frequency. Yeah, being in that frequency for so sustained for so long, and then have like something come out and then actually come out really good and have people respond to it positively. It's just the ultimate confirmation that what we were experiencing was the right thing.
And you can tell that you guys were bonded and really had great chemistry among the cast. You can always tell when it's not the case too,
Mhm.
when they're really forcing it. I assume all three of you got plenty of advice from Shea Serrano, the writer creator of the show, whose quasi autobiography is the basis of Primo.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
took a sports approach. He was very, very much our coach,
Yeah.
which is what I love about Shay.
Did he give you any advice of no, my uncle would never do that?
Oh, no. From early on, it was very clear that we were going to be in charge of taking our own approach to the character. We're loosely based on the uncles, and that actually allowed us to be way more playful and constructing what each character, what each uncle was going to bring to the table, which I think is the way. This isn't a biopic, So I think that was also like important for us. Because very early on, he let us kind of do our thing. We never met the uncles, and I think that was obviously on purpose. So we just started seeing pictures of the actual uncles very recently, and after the fact. And I think I think that was the right approach.
I think part of Shay's genius is his ability to know when he wants to just let somebody run. And I think he has done it. I think Primo is like just a playground of him taking people and being like, here, I think you're good at this, go. And I think he did it kind of with all the cast members. And I think the first weeks he would give more notes, and then it turned into him. Literally, he would say things like, just go, run. I think he did it with a lot of writers on this show too. I think Shay is there's a real lack of ego, I think, in Shay as a creator. I think it's why this was such a pleasant experience, as well as one that people are appreciating.
Yeah. I remember from like the very beginning when we were, doing like some of the hair and makeup stuff. I had kind of talked to him about some tattoos on the character that I wanted to do, and I had a list of some ideas of like potential tattoos that I thought the role he would have. And I remember him like coming in and we were talking about him, and I was thinking about this tattoo, and he's like, "Oh, I like that. That's good." And like this one, nah, not that one doesn't really work. But it was so collaborative. We were working together to create the character. And then what was so cool about Shay too is like, I mean, we bonded over basketball. I'm a big basketball fan, so we would talk about basketball a lot. But I remember very early on when we were shooting scenes, I was very worried about being too broad or being over the top with the character. And I remember Shay was just always telling me like, I'm gonna tell you if it's too much, and it's grounded, it's real. Don't worry about it. Trust me. And that really put me at ease because it allowed me to just play and do what I was doing and not have to worry about like, okay, what does it look like? What's happening? That's not my job. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of trust on that set.
It's sure nice to be able to have a say in in how your character comes across, and it's not everything isn't just completely tailor made, and you have to just sort of step into the role, that you can actually create the role along with the show. Um, uh, did I was going to wonder, I was wondering what attracted you guys to this role? I mean, besides the steady paycheck part, I mean, was it something that you had a real affinity for? As soon as you read the script, you went, "Oh my God, this is great! I don't care if it's a one-off. I love this."
I mean, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, for me, initially it's Mike Schur and Shea Serrano, and then it's when those names are on the email, it's it instantly catches you. And I think there's the whole bit between Mike and Ryan about the certificate and going to college. That is what made me want to read from Mike. They sent me an audition for Mondo, and I called my manager and asked for the Mike side because I just wanted to be mean to Ryan.
He's working some stuff out last year, and so I think it's role play.
I'm better for it today.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you guys are riffing off each other. This is better than me throwing out any questions, believe me. Um, you know, I did want to bring out something else and just change gears for a second, though, maybe to each of you individually or collectively. I spoke yesterday with John Leguizamo about the battles he's fought over Latinx representation in TV and film. And, I had a similar conversation with Jimmy Smits maybe a decade ago. They talked about having to steer clear of being, hired to play gang members and drug dealers and early in their careers, but that things have changed a lot, not just for them, but for Latinx representation on both sides of the camera. What's been your experience in that area? Let's start with you, Johnny.
I mean, just like, I've definitely played a handful of those characters, for sure. And I think it was hard for me at the beginning, because when I first came to LA, I thought I was going to mostly do more comedy. I was kind of getting into more like comedic improv and stuff like that. And I was sort of trying to figure out my lane. But I kept getting a lot of dramatic auditions, so I was like, I really got to kind of work on this. And, I'd get a lot of those like sort of like, gangbanger stuff and, criminals and whatnot. And I was very resistant to it for a very long time. I really didn't want to do it. But also at the same time, I wanted to work, you know? So I just decided like, hey, instead of like me resisting, let me just embrace this. Because while obviously those are stereotypes and I am not those people do exist. And so I looked at it more from that perspective. Like I'm just, these people are around in the world and I'm playing a part of somebody that exists out there. And I started looking at it from that perspective. And then I started getting more work. And eventually, once you start getting more credits, then it allows you to play other parts and so forth. So that's been my journey specifically. And for me, I don't have a lot of comedic TV credits. I only have a couple. But it's kind of been a steady progression of like now like he's done a bunch of drama stuff. Okay, he can actually do that stuff. Now I'm getting some comedy stuff, and then ironically enough, I land Primo, which is the biggest role I've ever had, and it's a full-on comedy by Mike Schur and Shea Serrano. It's funny how that all works out. So I definitely understand that. And John Leguizamo was honestly one of the reasons why I even became an actor. He was like the first Latin actor I really saw on TV, in movies really. That he's Colombian, and I was like, oh man, this guy can do anything. He can play a clown in Spawn, and then he's like a gangster in New York on Empire. You know what I mean? Like it was just like this guy's
incredibly versatile.
So much range, and that's what I wanted to be. Was like I wanted to do what he's doing, So, and he's paving the way, and I think it's just getting better over time. It's not where it needs to be yet, but I think everyone's journey is different.
Henry, how about you?
John was also the reason I started acting. I saw him do Sexaholics saw a real special of him doing the one-man show, and that was the first moment. I think, for me specifically, I understand the privilege I have in this conversation as a white passing Latino, and I've definitely played dudes getting out of prison and criminals, but I've also gotten the opportunity not to. I think a lot, and usually, those roles came coupled with an Anglo name. But just speaking to Latino diversity and roles in general, I think we still have a long way to go. I think right now, we're more than 12% away from the census numbers as far as representation is concerned. And percentage points in that conversation are huge, and I don't think 10% is something that isn't the gravity of 10% should not be lost on us.
Absolutely. Carlos, how about you?
Well, nobody believes me as a drug dealer or somebody that came out of prison. So what that means is that there was a very small margin in my career.
I
The
see you
very
as a
small things
cartel boss.
that I was allowed to go out for. No, so I unfortunately I'm trying to. I think the mustache, I'm trying to do it. No, but for me, I think I mean I always say this, like today, the present time is always going to be the best time for us because I've been around. I've been doing this for over 15 years, and I've seen this, you know, somewhat of a shift. I also shout out to John Leguizamo of the world and Jimmy Smith of the world. These people took the hits in the 80s and the 90s for us to be in a position to even be talking to you this way and having a full Latino cast with, you know, Latinos in the behind the camera. So shout out to them, and it does not go, you know, like it's always, I always have deep respect for not just people that made it, but even the actors that struggled, that have been doing this for 40 years. I always say jokingly, but I mean it, like these people have every right to be resentful and mad. And sometimes they're not, and sometimes they are. But man, if you know, coming out of that kind of like the battle against, you know, just racism or just a stereotype, it's rough. So I have nothing but respect for everybody that helped us be in their way. But again, it is slow. I feel like we're in a good spot. We're in a better spot, and hopefully, you know, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we keep moving forward. We keep chugging along. And I think that's what's important. But yeah, for me, I mean, I've just there have been like areas of my life where it's just there's nothing really for me to go out for, and unless you're a name, they're not going to see you. They only see what does this mean for them. So I'm just happy that for me, like I always say, like my time at doing Gentified on Netflix is the show that really opened the doors for me and allowed me to be in a position where casting directors could even like entertain the idea of calling me in for something. And so for me to go from that and to be here right now with these fellow gentlemen on Primo, it's honestly a blessing. And I'm not gonna say, you know, and I said this jokingly too, is like I feel like I've been doing this long enough where my imposter syndrome is at its lowest. So I'm really enjoying my time.
Oh, that's nice.
Thank God. No,
very
you know,
manageable. It's very manageable.
I will get there too.
Skyrocket.
One day.
but it really is so much better than it was. No question in terms of the representation. It's refreshing to see a comedy about an extended Latinx family that doesn't spend all its time calling attention to its Latinness.
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
know,
We're not
that it's incidental to the storylines. It's not central to the storylines.
Absolutely.
It's also got to feel pretty good for you guys to be part of a series that's not only witty, well written, well acted, but so wholesome and family friendly. You know, you don't have to apologize for anything, and you know the whole everybody that you talk to, from you know, kids 7 years old to grandpas, can watch this.
This is the first thing I've done I think my mom has watched all the way through.
There you go.
And great response too to this show, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, 100% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
Woo.
It has to feel pretty gratifying.
Yeah. For a long time, you know, you're in a vacuum. You think you had a good time, but we all actors know about this, where you do a project and you're like, oh, this is it. This is the one. And then, you know, and then sometimes you do something and you're like, oh, I hope nobody sees it. And that's the thing that goes crazy. So for us to just kind of be, yeah. So I'm ready for anything, you know what I mean? Like I'm ready for whatever happens. I'm emotionally ready for the ship to sink at any moment. But it was just really happy that it was a confirmation. I'm being real. But the fact that we've had like positive reviews is just it's obviously very comforting, and the fact that, you know, it just confirms that we did something really nice and really special, and we got to share that.
We're going to help you get into therapy, Carlos, for your imposter.
You know what? Was this not therapy? I thought this was.
Yeah, I back Carlos on that because I feel the same way. I feel the same way about stuff, and there's a lots of stuff that I've shot that I'm like, I hope nobody ever sees this. So good. But you know, even with this, it's like, you know, you shoot it and you just, you know, obviously it was one of the best times I've ever had on set, but you hope that it translates to what the finished product is, because also, you know, you have no control over the editing or anything that's going to happen, what takes they're going to use, and sometimes it's hard for me to watch, you know, myself do something on there. But I'm so happy the way this really turned out, and I have watched it, and I will say I'm extremely proud of it. They just really did an excellent job with this project, and I think that's also why everyone's loving the project. You know, so the 100% on Rotten Tomatoes is like a cherry on top because my expectations were low. You know, because that's just my mental block. So if something like that happens, it's just it's a bonus all around. You know, so.
And I hope you get a second season. Maybe you already have and you're not telling me. But either way, with that, we're actually out of time. You can stream all 8 episodes of Primo over Amazon Freevee. Henri, Esteve, Johnny Ray Diaz, and Carlos Santos, take good care of yourselves. Good luck, and thanks for joining us at Gold Derby today.
Thank you, Ray.
Pleasure and an honor, sir.
Thanks.
Bye.